of medieval castles, land of fairy tale villages, land of art and cuisine. The fragrance of freshly baked baguettes spreads through the streets. Atlantic waves caress wild coastlines. Burgundy vineyards fade into the horizon. Welcome to France. Welcome to the heart of Europe. Known as l'Hexagone for its characteristic geometric hexagonal shape, this is a land where medieval castles watch over lush valleys, where villages dot the territory, and where the most refined culinary art has found its chosen homeland. But let's start from the beginning. France extends as the third largest country in Europe, with its 210,000 square miles or 544,000 square kilometers, which embrace an extraordinary variety of landscapes. Here, indeed, nature has painted with every color: the intense blue of the Mediterranean, the emerald green of Normandy, the pristine white of the Alps. Over 65,350,000 inhabitants live in a territory blessed by 3,400 miles or 5,500 kilometers of coastlines, lapped by 3 different seas. The Atlantic Ocean beats the western shores, the English Channel separates France from England to the north, and the Mediterranean Sea caresses the southern coasts with its salty breeze. But this European giant also hides a surprising record, being the nation with the most time zones in the world. Thanks to its overseas territories scattered in every corner of the planet, such as French Guiana or French Polynesia, France has no fewer than 12 different time zones, more than any other nation on Earth. Crossing its regions, furthermore, the landscape reveals itself as varied, with over 40,000 castles and ruins that dot the territory, tangible testimonies of the grandeur of its feudal and royal past. These monuments narrate centuries of conquests, of courtly splendors, and of revolutions that have shaped all of Europe. In the hills of Burgundy and in the gentle valleys of Bordeaux, French soil reveals one of its most precious treasures. And we're talking about vineyards, which have made these regions true worldwide institutions for the production of excellent wines. But this land doesn't nourish only with its wines. Every day, from its boulangeries, which would be the bakeries, about 27 million baguettes emerge, for a total of 10 billion per year. Each of these is a work of art in bread making and must respect rigorous standards for ingredients and dimensions, continuing a tradition that is the very essence of French identity. French excellence, furthermore, manifests itself also on the roads. Since 1903, indeed, the Tour de France celebrates human endurance through the most spectacular landscapes of the country. This cycling race, which is among the most prestigious in the world, transforms the landscape every July with athletes from every part of the world who challenge each other. Continuing, France boasts 2 important excellences at the worldwide level, and we're talking about transportation and gastronomy. Indeed, in the 1980s, this nation revolutionized the very concept of travel with the introduction of the TGV, which is the high-speed train, and which connects the main cities speeding at about 200 miles per hour or 320 kilometers per hour. From the gastronomic point of view, instead, it is the cradle of the Michelin Guide, which is the most prestigious culinary evaluation system in the world. But now, let's go to discover the most iconic places and the hidden villages of this nation. French Riviera. From Saint-Tropez to Menton extends a coast that has conquered worldwide fame for its combination of natural beauty and luxury. The cobalt blue sea laps golden beaches, while elegant cities succeed one another along this stretch of Mediterranean. Monaco attracts with its sumptuous casino, while the city streets transform once a year into the Formula One Grand Prix track, creating one of the most exclusive sporting events in the world. Cannes, instead, pulses to the rhythm of its famous film festival. International stars walk the red carpet, while luxury boutiques in the surrounding streets offer creations from the most renowned designers. Nice finally shows another face of the Riviera, with its lively waterfront, where locals and tourists mingle. There is also the flower market, which adds color and fragrances to this city. High cuisine restaurants complete the experience along the entire coast, proposing dishes that unite Mediterranean tradition and culinary innovation, testifying of the essence of a lifestyle that has made this region a symbol of elegance. Paris. Strolling through Paris is like leafing through the pages of a history book. Every neighborhood tells something unique. The Seine flows through the heart of the city, dividing it between Rive Gauche and Rive de Rose, which would be right bank and left bank. The first is the bohemian side, with cafes frequented by artists and intellectuals. The other hosts famous museums and grand boulevards. But it's not only history that defines this city. Indeed, historic buildings coexist with modern squares, markets, and urban gardens with a relaxed atmosphere. From the elegant shop windows on the Champs-Élysées to the narrow and welcoming streets of the Marais, every corner hides something worth discovering. You can also enjoy a sunset on the steps of Montmartre or stroll along the Seine with the lights of the Eiffel Tower reflected on the water. Alsace. Situated at the border with Germany, Alsace has a soul divided between two cultures. Its villages seem to have emerged from other times, with pastel-colored houses that have exposed beams, canals that cross the historic centers, and flowers that adorn balconies and windows. Colmar is a perfect example, with its medieval quarters still intact, which during the Christmas period become part of a true fairy tale. But this is also land of precious wines, with orderly rows that cross hills and gentle slopes. The famous wine route connects villages like Riviera and Eguisheim, fundamental stops to discover historic cellars and taste local specialties. There are also various storks that nest on church roofs or in houses' chimneys, adding poetry to a landscape that changes with the seasons but remains always welcoming and genuine. Loire Valley. A journey through the Loire Valley reveals a world of castles that emerge from the morning mist. The towers rise beyond the treetops, while Renaissance gardens extend to the horizon. The Loire River flows between these fortresses, which have witnessed battles and love stories and shaped France. Medieval villages hide beneath the vineyards, and their paved streets lead to squares where time seems to have stopped. Local markets transform these spaces into theaters of daily life, with the fragrance of freshly baked bread mixing with local traditions. Chambord Castle dominates the landscape with its 426 rooms, defying architectural logic. Chenonceau reflects in the waters of the Cher River, while Amboise guards the secrets of Leonardo da Vinci, whose spirit still hovers in the corridors. Villandry, instead, reveals gardens that are true works of art and present intricate geometric designs. Corsica. An island that guards mountains in the heart of the Mediterranean. Here, white beaches soon give way to green forests and deep valleys. Wild nature dominates the landscape, interrupted only by small villages perched on the hills. The city of Bonifacio faces directly onto the sea, built on steep white cliffs. Not far away, ancient paths cross forests of pines and chestnuts. The GR20, one of the most challenging hiking routes in Europe, connects north and south of the island through rocky mountains. The island remains authentic anyway, proud of its traditions and jealous of its own identity, offering a perfect balance between adventure and Mediterranean quiet.
Mont Saint-Michel. The sea surrounds this rocky islet, tightening and widening to the rhythm of the tides. Mont Saint-Michel rises on the northern coast of France, in Normandy. At the center, there is a medieval abbey that dominates the entire bay, surrounded by ancient walls and paved alleys. In the heart of the village, small shops and restaurants follow one another along medieval streets. This place has been for centuries a pilgrimage destination, an impregnable fortress, resisting wars and sieges. Still today, crossing the bay during low tide is a special experience. By day, it almost seems like walking on water, while at night, when the abbey lights turn on, everything reflects on the surrounding wet sands, creating an almost surreal atmosphere. Provence. Imagine strolling through infinite fields of lavender that color the landscape purple. This is the magic of Provence, where every corner seems painted by an artist. Here, hidden among the flowers, stands the ancient Abbey of Senanque, where even today monks maintain alive the traditions of 8 centuries ago. Climbing up the hills, there is also Les Baux de Provence, a village perched on rock that seems to have emerged from a medieval fairy tale. Its old castle will surely bring to mind stories of knights. In this area of France, one cannot fail to visit Roussillon, a unique town where everything is colored red. Houses, streets, and rocks are tinged with different shades thanks to ochre, a mineral that has made this place truly special. Not far away, the village of Gordes climbs the hill with little streets that wind in spirals, just as they were created hundreds of years ago. The best time to visit these places? July, when lavender is in bloom and the wind carries with it the fragrances of Provençal summer, giving to every glimpse the perfect light. Bordeaux. It is a city that lives around wine, with a history of commerce dating back to Roman times. The streets of the historic center, UNESCO heritage, show classical elegance with 18th-century buildings and animated squares. The Cathedral of St. Andrew dominates the city, soaring with its Gothic towers and crowning an atmosphere of elegance that permeates the entire historic core. The Garonne River divides the city, crossed by historic bridges like the Pont de Pierre. In the evening, along the river, the city comes alive with lights that reflect on the water, creating the ideal atmosphere for a walk or an outdoor dinner. Normandy. Normandy is a mosaic of fertile countryside, windy coasts, and villages rich in history. The landing beaches tell decisive events of World War II, with museums and memorials dedicated to them. In the cliffs of Étretat, instead, spectacular natural arches, shaped by the wind, dominate the landscape. Small ports, like Honfleur, maintain intact the maritime atmosphere of the past. In the interior, instead, farms and orchards give life both to cheeses like Camembert and to local cider, which are 2 authentic symbols of Norman gastronomy. Lyon. Situated at the confluence of 2 rivers, which are the Rhône and Saône, Lyon is a city that lives between past and present. The historic center, called Vieil Lyon, preserves Renaissance alleys and secret courtyards hidden behind heavy wooden doors. Its squares and historic churches tell centuries of history, making it surely one of the most fascinating neighborhoods. The city is known as the gastronomic capital of France, with markets and restaurants that celebrate its local flavors. The Basilica of Notre-Dame de Fourvière dominates the city from above, offering a complete panorama of the historic center and the rivers below. More modern is the Confluence District, which hosts futuristic architectures, museums, and cultural spaces. Strasbourg. It rises on the banks of the Ill River, where France and Germany have met and influenced each other for centuries. The heart of the city, called La Grande Île, is surrounded by canals that flow slowly, crossed by small bridges in stone and wood. The Gothic cathedral dominates the city and is visible from every point of the historic center. In the winter months, the famous Christmas market fills the streets with lights and decorations, attracting visitors from all over Europe. Neighborhoods like Petite France show the most romantic side of the city, with half-timbered houses facing directly onto the water. It is therefore a place that tells the continuous encounter between tradition and modernity, culture and politics. Brittany. It is a region where the ocean dictates the rhythm of life. The jagged coasts host lighthouses that have guided navigators for centuries, while tides transform the landscape twice a day. Fishing villages like Saint-Malo and Concarneau preserve historic fortifications that tell of battles and maritime commerce. In the interior, instead, green countryside is dotted with prehistoric menhirs and ancient stone churches. Gastronomy is an integral part of local identity, with salted butter, cider, and fresh seafood, which can be found practically everywhere. This region is an intertwining of Celtic traditions, changing landscapes, and communities that still live today a deep bond with the ocean and nature. Marseille. Founded by the Greeks over 2,600 years ago, Marseille is the oldest city in France. The Vieille Port is still today the vital center, with fishing boats that dock next to restaurants that serve the traditional fish soup. The city develops between hills and coves, facing the Mediterranean with beaches and wild inlets. The Basilica of Notre-Dame de la Garde dominates everything from above, a recognizable symbol of the port. The Longchamp Palace, instead, with its gardens and monumental fountains, celebrates the arrival of drinking water in the city in the 19th century. Marseille is also an access point to the Calanques Park, which is a protected area of limestone cliffs and transparent waters. Dune of Pilat. The Dune of Pilat is the highest in Europe and represents a true mountain of sand that faces the Atlantic Ocean. With its 110 meters in height and over 2 kilometers in length, or 361 feet and 1.2 miles, it represents one of the most imposing natural spectacles of the French coast. In the summer months, visitors climb along the wooden staircase or face barefoot the sand to reach the summit, while the marine wind blows constant and allows outdoor activities like paragliding, hang gliding, and kite surfing. Every year, currents and tides slowly move the dune toward the interior, modifying its dimensions and profile. Aquitaine. In the surroundings of the Dune of Pilat, Aquitaine offers infinite beaches beaten by surf, vineyards that produce renowned wines, and fishing villages. Atlantic waves arrive powerful from Spain, creating perfect conditions for surfers from all over the world. In the interior, Bordeaux's vineyards extend as far as the eye can see, giving some of the best French wines. There are also tranquil rivers, extensive forests, and small rural villages where life flows with a slow rhythm. It is a land where nature still dominates, maintaining a rare balance between ocean, country, and woods. Verdun Gorges. In southeastern France, the Verdun River has carved for millions of years one of the most spectacular canyons in Europe. Its turquoise waters flow between limestone rock walls up to 2,300 feet or 700 meters high. There are panoramic trails like the Sentier Blanc Martel that offer incredible views and allow discovering an environment rich in wildlife. Sports lovers can practice kayaking, climbing, or paragliding, while those seeking tranquility find characteristic villages like Moustiers-Saint-Marie. The gorges are part of a protected natural park created to preserve a fragile and unique ecosystem. Auvergne. Mountainous region in the heart of France, famous for wild and uncontaminated nature. Volcanic landscapes, thick forests, and deep lakes design its territory. The Puys chain, declared UNESCO World Heritage, counts about 80 inactive volcanoes, visitable along well-marked hiking routes. Small villages in basaltic stone with robust architecture dot the countryside. In summer, sunflower fields color the plains at the foot of the volcanoes, creating a suggestive contrast with the dark rock. Thermal baths are also an integral part of local life, and the city of Vichy has been famous for its beneficial waters since Roman times. Chamonix Mont Blanc. At the foot of Mont Blanc, Chamonix is a gateway to the Alps. The town is surrounded by snow-capped peaks and glaciers, including the Mer de Glace, reachable by a cog railway that climbs the mountain. Here, the tradition of mountaineering was born, with expeditions dating back to the 1800s. Hikers and climbers fill the trails during the warm months, while skiers and snowboarders populate the snowy slopes in winter. The Aiguille du Midi cable car takes you up to almost 13,100 feet, or 4,000 meters in height, offering a 360-degree panorama of the French, Swiss, and Italian Alps. Palace of Versailles. Built by the will of Louis XIV, the Palace of Versailles is one of the absolute symbols of the power of French monarchy. The building, with its richly decorated halls, hosts the famous Hall of Mirrors, which has been the theater of treaties and ceremonies. Outside, instead, extend geometric gardens, crossed by fountains and sculptures unthinkable for the era in which it was built. Versailles is not only a monument, but an entire complex of residences, stables, and woods designed to exalt royal power. Today, it is one of the most visited destinations in France, guardian of a history that has marked Europe. Annecy. Among the French Alps, there is a town facing a lake with crystal-clear water. Its canals resemble an alpine village crossed by water. Ancient stone bridges connect the banks, while the historic center preserves houses in soft colors with flowered balconies. A medieval castle dominates from above, memory of the times of the Counts of Geneva. The lake, instead, invites strolls along its shores and boat trips to admire the mountains that are reflected in its waters, which are among the clearest in Europe. Riviera. Surrounded by vines and gentle hills, this Alsatian town seems to have remained frozen in time. Its medieval walls, still intact, guard pastel-colored buildings and stone streets. Strolling through the village, it's easy to notice floral decorations that change according to the season, and small wrought iron signs, testimony of the deeply rooted artisanal tradition. Every Christmas, Riviera transforms. There are markets and illuminations, and it becomes one of the most visited places in Alsace in winter. Gordes. In Provence, on a rocky hill, rises a village of light stone houses that seem almost an extension of the rock itself. Here, time is marked by the sound of cicadas and the fragrances of lavender and rosemary. At the center of the town stands an ancient castle from the 16th century, today home to art exhibitions. All around, views open onto the Loire Valley, dotted with olive groves and vineyards. In summer, visitors linger in shaded squares among fountains and local shops, while the stone streets wind between ancient houses with pastel-colored shutters. Aise. Perched on a cliff overlooking the Mediterranean, this provincial village offers one of the most suggestive panoramas of the French Riviera. Its winding little streets climb to the remains of an ancient medieval castle, today transformed into an exotic garden with cacti and rare plants from all over the world. Stone houses, small art galleries, and artisan workshops accompany the climb toward the highest point. Friedrich Nietzsche spent a period here, and today the path that connects Aise to the sea bears his name. Along this route, which descends steeply among pines and wild flowers, you can encounter wonderful glimpses of the sea. Colmar. This Alsatian town seems like a living painting, with its colored half-timbered houses, quiet canals, and small stone bridges. Strolling through the historic center, you encounter fountains, little squares, and hidden courts that invite you to slow your pace. The Petite Venise district offers suggestive glimpses thanks to small boats that navigate slowly among the ancient dwellings. Every winter, furthermore, the squares come alive with traditional Christmas markets famous throughout Europe. Conques. Hidden among the hills of Aveyron, this small medieval village is an important stop along the Camino de Santiago. Its Romanesque abbey, dedicated to Sainte Foy, guards precious artistic treasures and relics venerated by pilgrims since the Middle Ages. The narrow streets climb among golden-colored stone houses, revealing at every turn original architectural details and ancient wrought-iron signs. At sunset, when light caresses the facades of buildings, the main square becomes a meeting point for visitors and locals in front of the small typical establishments of the area. Carcassonne, a fortified city that dominates the Valley of the Aude. Its double walls over 2 miles or 3 kilometers long enclose towers, drawbridges, and a perfectly preserved medieval village. The medieval center was a strategic point during the Middle Ages, contested by counts and kings. Today, visitors can walk on the walls and observe the countryside, once defended with tenacity. Inside, paved roads lead to the Basilica of Saint-Nazaire and to the Comtal Castle, focal points of the ancient city. Egisheim. A few steps from Colmar, this circular village develops around a medieval castle, forming a concentric network of stone alleys. Strolling between pastel-colored houses with sloping roofs, you notice characteristic details like decorated windows, artisan signs, and ornate fountains. Egisheim is also famous for wine quality. Here, mainly Pinot Gris and Riesling are produced, often internationally awarded. The village gave birth to Pope Leo IX, commemorated by a statue in the center of the main square. Egisheim was also elected French people's favorite village, thanks to its authenticity and its intimate and welcoming environment. Roussillon. Imagine walking inside a palette of warm colors. Here, in the heart of Provence, red, yellow, and orange houses climb along hills that seem painted by the sun itself. The secret of this beauty lies in ochre, extracted for centuries from the surrounding quarries and used to dye every wall, every facade. The stone streets wind between reddish dwellings that change shade according to the light, creating a spectacle that renews itself every day. While walking these ancient alleys, every corner offers a new perspective and facades that tell of artisans who have shaped the village with their own hands. It is a place where nature and architecture dance together, where the earth itself has become art, and every step takes you deeper into this Provençal dream of impossible colors. Ivoire. Medieval walls reflect on Lake Geneva. This small village has narrow streets paved with cobblestones and adorned with seasonal flowers. The historic heart, dating back to the 14th century, preserves towers, portals, and a castle that dominates the lake. It is famous above all for the Garden of the Five Senses, which is a botanical labyrinth where plants are chosen specifically to stimulate different sensory perceptions. The lakefront, instead, invites relaxed walks with small restaurants specialized in local fish just caught in the lake. Carcassonne, a fortified city that dominates the Valley of the Aude. Its double walls over 2 miles or 3 kilometers long enclose towers, drawbridges, and a perfectly preserved medieval village. The medieval center was a strategic point during the Middle Ages, contested by counts and kings. Today, visitors can walk on the walls and observe the countryside, once defended with tenacity. Inside, paved roads lead to the Basilica of Saint-Nazaire and to the Comtal Castle, focal points of the ancient city. Egisheim. A few steps from Colmar, this circular village develops around a medieval castle, forming a concentric network of stone alleys. Strolling between pastel-colored houses with sloping roofs, you notice
Dinah. From the walls that dominate the Rance Valley,
The gaze embraces a panorama that has inspired artists for generations. This Breton village is a stone book, open on French medieval history. Half-timbered houses face streets that descend steeply toward the river port, creating wonderful perspectives at every turn. Here, natural light highlights the contrasts between the gray of slate and the pastel colors of facades, while the surrounding walls embrace the historic center like a protective shell. What makes this place special is authenticity, with, for example, the medieval bastions that recall battles and sieges, while artisan shops in the little streets keep traditions alive. It's like taking a journey through time, and every step takes you further back in history. Rochefort and Terre. This Breton village stands out for its well-preserved architecture and careful details. Granite and half-timbered houses alternate along the main streets. Artisans and artists work in the shops, which display worked glass, ceramics, and local products. It is known overall for the spectacular Christmas illumination, a tradition that attracts thousands of visitors every year. The presence of the 12th century castle, rebuilt in Renaissance style, adds historic charm to the place. Biarritz. On the Basque coast, facing the Atlantic, this town merges French tradition with surfer's spirit. Wide beaches and high waves attract enthusiasts from all over Europe. In the 19th century, Napoleon III and Empress Eugenie chose it as their favorite destination for their vacations, leaving Art Nouveau villas still visible today on the waterfront. The center hosts refined boutiques, historic cafes, and the famous casino, symbol of the city. A walkway leads to the Virgin's Rock, topped by a statue of Mary, from which to admire the entire coast. Ramatuelle. Perched on the hills of Saint-Tropez, this provincial village guards the authentic soul of the French Riviera. Its spiral streets develop among pastel-colored houses and bougainvillea that explode with colors, while the fragrance of lavender and rosemary accompanies every step. Here, time seems to have stopped at the era when Saracen pirates threatened these coasts, leaving as inheritance an intertwining of labyrinthine alleys designed precisely to confuse invaders. From the central square, where the weekly market becomes a festival of provincial flavors, the gaze spans to the sea, embracing vineyards and olive groves that dominate the slopes. It is the perfect refuge where French aristocracy has always sought poetry and tranquility. Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. At the gates of the Pyrenees, where France meets Spain, rises the spiritual capital of the Camino de Santiago. This Basque fortified village has welcomed pilgrims from all over Europe for centuries, who stop here before the last stage toward Compostela. The pink sandstone walls enclose a labyrinth of medieval streets, where languages from all over the world resound, while Vauban's bastions watch over the gray slate roofs. The main street of the historic center descends toward the Nive River with a vertiginous slope, flanked by Basque half-timbered houses and pilgrim shops. From the citadel, instead, the view embraces the Basque Mountains, where eagles and vultures glide over sheep pastures. Concluding this visual journey through France, we have moved from the charm of its varied landscapes to the most famous icons of its historic cities, discovering together not only places, but also curiosities that make every corner of this country unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the extraordinary beauty of this nation.